Tonight, you're going to do something your ancestors did every single night for 1,000,000 years. You're going to sit and stare into a screen that flickers. You won't think of it as ancient. You won't think of it at all. But the real answer to why you can't look away is far stranger than habit. Your brain didn't evolve for phones. It didn't evolve for televisions either. It evolved for fire. For most of human history, the only light after sunset came from flames. Orange, moving, alive. Your ancestors gathered around it every night for thousands of generations, long enough for evolution to notice. And evolution doesn't forget easily. It carves things into the brain and leaves them there, even after the original reason is gone. The fire disappeared from most modern lives. The wiring never did. So tonight, when you find yourself scrolling in the dark, lit by a small, glowing rectangle, you're not doing something new. You're doing something incredibly old, just with the wrong tool. Here's where it gets stranger. Anthropologist Polly Wiesner spent years studying the Juhwansi people of the Kalahari Desert, comparing what they talked about during the day versus what they talked about at night, around fire. During the day, conversation was practical. Complaints, gossip, logistics. But at night, around the flames, something shifted. The talk turned to stories, myths, histories of ancestors. Wiesner found that firelit conversation pulled people toward imagination, toward each other, toward meaning, in a way daylight conversation never did. Why would a fire do that? Fire forces a group into a tight circle. It cannot be looked at directly for long without your eyes drifting to the people beside you. So firelight became, by accident of physics, the world's first stage. A reason to stop moving, stop working, and simply be present with other humans. Daylight scatters people. It pulls them outward into separate tasks, separate directions. Firelight pulls them inward. The sun was the clock for survival. The fire was the clock for connection. This pause mattered more than it sounds. Richard Wrangham, a primatologist at Harvard, built an entire theory of human evolution around fire, and not for the reason you'd guess. He argued the real transformation didn't come from warmth or protection from predators, although both helped. It came from cooking. Wrangham's cooking hypothesis proposes that controlled fire let early humans cook food, and cooked food delivers dramatically more usable calories than raw food. Chewing raw meat and tough plants for hours burns enormous energy. Cooking does that work externally, using flame instead of teeth and stomach acid. This single shift freed up a staggering amount of energy, and the human brain is metabolically expensive. It demands a disproportionate share of the body's total energy just to keep running. Wrangham's argument is that the extra calories unlocked by cooking didn't just feed muscles, they fed brain growth. Over hundreds of thousands of years, that surplus may have helped push the human brain toward the size and complexity it has today.
In other words, the fire that lit the night may have also lit the mind. That alone would be a strange enough legacy. But fire shaped more than biology. It shaped behavior in ways that still echo through a quiet living room on a Tuesday night. Psychologist Christopher Lynn studied something almost too simple to take seriously. What happens to a human body when it watches a fire? He measured heart rate variability while people sat near a controlled flame and found that watching fire correlated with reductions in stress markers, alongside the same kind of behavioral pull seen in deeply social, low-conflict gatherings. People didn't just tolerate the fire, their bodies relaxed into it. Heart rate slowed, tension eased. Lynn's explanation draws on a concept sometimes called the hearth hypothesis. If watching fire calmed the nervous system, early humans who gathered around it peacefully instead of fighting after dark were more likely to survive the night, cooperate the next day, and pass that calm-inducing response to their children. Over enough generations, a trait that began as a side effect of flame gazing became etched into the species. Calm
calm in firelight wasn't learned. It became default. So when you stare at a campfire today and feel your shoulders drop, that's not poetic imagination. That is roughly 1,000,000 years of selection pressure expressing itself in your spine.
Here's the part that should make you slightly uneasy. Screens were not designed by evolution. They were designed by engineers decades ago who studied attention, dopamine, and exactly what makes a human reluctant to look away. They borrowed, knowingly or not, from the same triggers fire had already mastered: movement, light in darkness, a focal point that holds the eye. A phone screen flickers with notifications the way flames flicker with sparks. Unpredictable. Just enough randomness to keep the brain checking, the same brain that once kept watch for embers about to die out. The ancient brain doesn't know the difference between a flame that warns of danger and a notification that might be exciting. It only knows something moved, something glows. Pay attention.
That is why a paused show feels almost unbearable to sit with. That is why a dark room with a single glowing screen feels, on some unconscious level, like home. But here is the twist inside the twist. Fire gave something screens rarely do. Fire required groups. You couldn't carry your own personal fire from place to place efficiently. Fire pulled people together by necessity. Screens do the opposite. They isolate by design. A campfire seats 6 people facing each other. A phone seats 1 person facing nothing. This is the quiet tragedy hiding inside convenience. You inherited a brain built to crave the glow, the movement, the flicker. But modern life delivered all the craving and stripped out the circle. You get the light without the company it was built to summon. So why are you still addicted to fire? Because for roughly 1,000,000 years, fire was the deadline that ended the workday, the light that gathered the tribe, the warmth that calmed the nervous system, and possibly the very fuel that grew the brain doing the wondering right now. Screens hijacked the wiring, but kept none of the original purpose. You get the flicker, you lost the fireside. Tonight, when you find yourself scrolling in the dark, notice it. Not with guilt, just with recognition. That pull isn't weakness, it's evolution, reaching forward across 1,000,000 years, trying to gather you around a fire that isn't there anymore. Maybe the fix isn't fighting the urge. Maybe it's redirecting it. A dinner table with the lights low, a candle instead of a screen, a few people facing each other, talking until the flame burns down. The hardware never left, only the fire did. So tonight, when you sit in the dark, lit by something small and flickering, ask yourself one question before you reach for your phone. Is this the glow you actually need, or just the only one left?